Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whatever time zone you're in. Welcome back to Sip and Talk. I'm Joe.
I'm Sunny. We are so glad you're here.
Absolutely. To all our amazing Sip and Talkers out there, grab your favorite beverage, get comfortable, because we have a really fantastic conversation lined up for you today.
Oh, it's a big one.
It is. But before we get into all the heavy stuff, I really have to ask you about your weekend.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. I heard through the grapevine that you finally went out and tried that Texas fried chicken joint, the one that's been claiming to have like that authentic hometown flavor. How was it?
Oh, man. Let's just say it was an absolute tragedy.
No way.
Seriously. I mean, I went in with impossibly high expectations because the Yelp reviews were just off the charts.
Right.
And I had been watching these mouth-watering slow-motion videos of glowing golden chicken legs all week long.
They make it look so good.
Exactly. The algorithm really had me convinced this was going to be like a life-changing meal. But in reality, the batter was as thick as gnawing on my living room hardwood floor. It was a complete culinary disaster.
Oh, that is hilarious, but also so tragic. But honestly, you got completely duped by the algorithm.
Hooked, line, and sinker.
It's exactly what happens to all of us.
Why?
Have you ever just wanted to order, I don't know, a simple, healthy salad for lunch? But as you scroll, your phone just aggressively feeds you close-ups of fried chicken, loaded fries, and just endless carbs.
Oh, constantly.
It just keeps pushing it until you genuinely feel like your life will be meaningless without a giant bucket of chicken.
You completely lose all sense of what you actually wanted in the first place.
Exactly.
And what is really fascinating about that exact experience is how it scales.
What do you mean?
Well, this algorithmic illusion, this feeling that there is only one choice or one reality in the entire world, it just makes you gain a few pounds when it comes to fast food.
Right.
But when you apply that exact same mechanism to international politics and global information environments, it has far more serious consequences.
Oh, for sure.
That same algorithmic funneling can make you completely lose your moral and factual bearings.
Which brings us perfectly to today's topic. Today, we are exploring the parallel universes created by cognitive warfare.
Yes.
We're going to look at how scrolling on an app like Douyin, which is the Chinese version of TikTok, for just 2 hours can suddenly make someone passionately want to enlist in the Iranian army.
It's wild.
Or how a perfectly healthy, living neighbor can be completely erased from someone's history textbooks.
Yeah, our mission for this Sip and Talk session is to unpack the massive divergences between Chinese mainstream narratives and global perceptions.
So we're looking at the gap between what's shown there and what the rest of the world sees.
Exactly. We're going to examine the geopolitical dynamics between the U.S. and Iran, the permanent historical labels placed on Japan, and ultimately we will delve into a highly sensitive topic.
The big one.
The big one. How the Republic of China, the ROC, was forcefully written out of the script after 1949.
So, Sip and Talkers, grab your coffee or maybe a fresh salad. Definitely no more fried chicken for a while.
Yeah.
As we pull out our analytical scalpels to dissect this emotional fast food.
I'm ready.
Let's start with that algorithmic magic moment you hinted at, because there was a recent really fascinating case study where an influencer actively tried to search for news about Iran on Douyin.
Right, just to see what the average user experiences on a daily basis.
Exactly. And the result of that experiment was just wild. The algorithm didn't provide objective news or balanced reporting at all.
No, not even close.
It presented this completely fabricated reality, portraying an unbreakable super alliance between China and Iran.
We are talking about highly produced videos with sweeping emotional background music, dramatic editing.
And those intense narratives about Iranian soldiers supposedly speaking Chinese and pledging eternal brotherhood.
Yes, it is designed from the ground up to create an incredibly potent emotional response in the viewer.
But that emotional narrative completely clashes with the cold, hard data, doesn't it?
Oh, 180 degrees.
When we look at the actual international trade figures, it paints a very different picture.
It absolutely does. If we look at the actual numbers from the IEA, the International Energy Agency, the reality is highly transactional.
It's just business.
Right. China is Iran's biggest oil buyer, yes. But that is simply because international sanctions allow China to purchase that oil at a massive, massive discount.
So it's about the bottom line.
Completely. To put that in perspective, the economic data indicates that China saves billions by purchasing this sanctioned oil. The algorithm hides this economic pragmatism behind a veil of eternal brotherhood.
Which ensures the public supports the alliance emotionally without understanding the financial reality behind it.
Exactly. It is pragmatic realism. It is business. It is not some blood brotherhood forged in ideological destiny.
Makes total sense.
And just as a quick disclaimer for our listeners, any mention of oil or trade here is strictly for factual context. It is not financial or investment advice.
Always good to clarify. So basically, it's a lucrative business deal dressed up as an epic movie trailer.
That is the perfect way to phrase it.
So when you look at all these data points, it seems like there is an actual architecture to this. It's not just random censorship or a glitch in the app.
No, it is highly structured. If you look closely at the mechanisms involved, it relies on 3 main pillars of cognitive warfare.
3 pillars. Okay.
And it is crucial we emphasize that we are not blaming the citizens here. You cannot blame the people when you understand the architecture of the environment they are trapped in.
Right. You have to look at the system.
Exactly. The first pillar is institutional filtering. Think of the Great Firewall, the GFW. I call this echolocation in a vacuum.
Echolocation in a vacuum.
Right, because the state doesn't just block outside noise, it meticulously removes all alternative reference points so that it can establish the only coordinates.
It creates a vacuum where only one frequency exists?
Precisely.
Let me try to translate that to human terms for a second.
Go for it.
It's like being locked in a pitch-black room where the regime holds the only flashlight.
Oh, that's good.
You follow the beam of light, not because you necessarily agree with where it's pointing or because you even like what it's illuminating, but because you have been entirely stripped of your sense of direction.
You literally cannot see anything else.
Right. You just have to follow the light.
That is a brilliant way to visualize it. And once you are in that dark room following the flashlight, the second pillar kicks in, which is algorithmic polarization.
Okay, what does that involve?
This is where traffic pool mechanisms come into play.
I've heard that term before, but what exactly is a traffic pool mechanism? How does that actually work on the back end?
Think of a traffic pool as a digital popularity contest that happens in fractions of a second. The algorithm groups users and tests content on them.
Like A/B testing.
Exactly like that. If a video, say a hyper-nationalist clip with dramatic music, gets a quick emotional reaction, the pool instantly floods it to millions of other feeds.
Wow, so it just scales instantly.
Instantly. The algorithms are specifically designed to give the highest weight to hyper-nationalism and emotionally charged content. Even if you try to search for something neutral, the system feeds you the most polarized, sensationalized version of it because that is what keeps you engaged.
Okay, so this is the cognitive hamburger shop.
The cognitive hamburger shop, yes.
Imagine you walk into a restaurant and the algorithm only feeds you cheeseburgers. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Just cheeseburgers.
Only cheeseburgers.
Eventually, if someone even mentions a taco, you don't just say you prefer burgers. You start to think tacos are a dangerous foreign conspiracy.
You really do.
You get so full of this emotional dopamine that you actually want to go to war to defend hamburgers. It's basically carb-induced collective madness, but applied to geopolitics.
Carb-induced collective madness captures the psychological state perfectly. You become militant about the only menu you've ever seen.
It's terrifying when you put it like that.
It is. And that brings us to the third pillar, which makes the population so receptive to this in the first place. Educational compensation psychology.
Okay, unpack that for us.
For decades, the education system has heavily emphasized the century of humiliation.
Right.
When you are taught from childhood that your nation was a victim of historical bullying by foreign powers, it creates this deep psychological need for external validation.
A need for a win.
Exactly. So when an algorithm feeds you narratives about foreigners suddenly being endlessly grateful to China or relying on China for their survival, it's incredibly addictive. It soothes a generational wound.
So it's like emotional fast food that targets a very specific craving.
Perfectly said.
We have the pitch black room, removing alternatives, the cognitive hamburger shop amplifying the extremes, and this deep psychological need for validation. Let's look at how these 3 pillars create entirely different parallel universes when it comes to global events.
Let's do it.
Let's talk about Russia and Ukraine. How does this architecture process a major conflict like that?
This is a really stark example of the global versus internal divide. Inside this carefully constructed information environment, the internal narrative frames Russia's actions as a purely defensive special military operation.
Defensive.
Right. It is portrayed as a necessary, justified move against NATO expansion to protect national security. It is essentially framed as a strategic alliance standing back-to-back against the United States.
But if you step outside that firewall, the international picture is completely different.
Completely different. Outside the firewall, the broader international community largely frames the conflict as an unprovoked, illegal invasion that violates sovereign borders.
Right.
The United Nations and numerous global organizations operate on a consensus that is the exact opposite of the internal narrative. You literally have two entirely separate realities existing simultaneously.
And we see a very similar dynamic, just with a different historical flavor, when we look at how Japan is portrayed.
Yes, the Japan narrative is deeply entrenched and highly functional.
Functional how?
Internally, the narrative permanently brands Japan with a militaristic label. Every modern move Japan makes, whether it is a trade agreement or a defense policy update, is filtered strictly through the lens of the 1930s.
Interesting. Why focus so heavily on the 1930s today?
It serves a distinct purpose. It maintains the ruling party's legitimacy by relying on this constant unifying historical grievance.
But again, the international perspective is looking at a completely different timeline.
Precisely. The global perspective recognizes modern Japan for what it is today, which is a post-war pacifist democracy and a crucial maintainer of peace and economic stability in the Indo-Pacific region.
Right.
The internal narrative completely ignores the last 80 years of Japanese pacifism to keep the 1930s grievance alive.
The pitch black room analogy makes sense for setting the narrative, but I really have to ask, how does the regime prevent someone from just bringing their own flashlight?
What do you mean?
People travel, they have VPNs, they do business internationally. How does this narrative stay so locked in without completely falling apart at the seams?
That is the million-dollar question. And the answer comes down to something called competitive loyalty.
Competitive loyalty.
Yes. The system is brilliantly, if darkly, designed to encourage reporting on peers. It doesn't rely solely on top-down censorship. It turns everyday citizens into the regime's eyes and ears.
Oh, wow.
It creates a social environment where proving your loyalty becomes a competitive sport because the alternative is being labeled suspicious by your own community.
Okay, think about it like an office where the boss never explicitly bans leaving at 5 p.m.
Right.
The employee handbook doesn't say you can't go home. But one day, one person stays late just to show a little extra loyalty, and they quietly report anyone who leaves on time to HR.
Exactly.
Fast forward a few months, and suddenly, everyone in the office is sleeping under their desks just to prove they love the company more than the next guy.
Yep.
It looks like extreme passion from the outside, but it's actually just a survival tactic disguised as dedication.
That is exactly the mechanism. It's an internal policing mechanism driven by social pressure and fear. You don't need to block every single VPN if using one makes your neighbor report you for unpatriotic behavior.
That is chilling.
And this mechanism allows for some truly astonishing feats of narrative control, which brings us to perhaps the most glaring example of this phenomenon, the concept of strategic amnesia.
Yes, the ultimate historical black hole. The disappearance of 1949 and the Republic of China, the ROC.
If you open a mainland textbook or consume their domestic media, the Republic of China effectively died on October 1st, 1949.
Just vanished.
It is treated entirely as a closed chapter, a defunct historical entity. But out here in the real world, the documentation shows a completely different reality.
Obviously.
International treaties, global trade agreements, semiconductor supply chains, Olympic records, and millions of valid passports prove that the ROC is very much alive.
Right.
It maintains a full-functioning constitutional democracy, an independent tax system, and a robust military in Taiwan.
It is so bizarre when you think about it in human terms.
How so?
It's like getting a super controlling new girlfriend who forces you to burn all the pictures of your ex. She makes you block her on every social media platform and tells all your mutual friends that she literally evaporated into thin air in 1949.
Oh, that's a great comparison.
But awkwardly, your ex is very much alive, she's thriving, and she runs a wildly successful, packed coffee shop right down the street.
Yes.
And whenever you walk by, your new girlfriend just aggressively pulls the blinds shut and screams, "Don't look, it's just a wasteland out there."
It's funny when you put it like that, but the real-world implications are incredibly severe.
Definitely.
What's crucial to understand is that this isn't just a disagreement over borders or political status. It is deliberate social erasure.
Erasure.
By systematically erasing the ROC from textbooks and public discourse, the state ensures that any future move against Taiwan isn't viewed by the public as attacking a functioning, prosperous Chinese democracy.
Oh.
It is simply viewed as reclaiming an empty lot.
It is a giant eraser that just comes along and reboots reality. It reminds me directly of George Orwell's 1984.
It is textbook Orwell.
Yeah.
The core philosophy in 1984 is that he who controls the past controls the future, and he who controls the present controls the past.
Right.
The narrative isn't static. It's dynamically adjusted to fit whatever the present political need is. It's total gaslighting, making the population think we've always been at war with East Asia when yesterday they were your allies.
You just wipe the slate clean and rewrite the script.
Exactly.
But if they are willing to completely rewrite history from 1949 and erase an entire functioning society from their citizens' awareness, it makes you wonder what they're preparing the public for today.
That's the real question.
Is all of this digital isolation just about maintaining domestic pride, or is it building towards something physical?
That is the provocative thought experiment that I really want our listeners to chew on today.
Okay, let's hear it.
What if this parallel universe we've been discussing isn't just about domestic internet traffic or distracting from internal economic issues? What if this is a pre-sync?
A pre-sync.
A social mobilization rehearsal for actual conflict.
Walk us through what that would look like.
Imagine a scenario where geopolitical tensions boil over. Say, Trump or a future administration significantly increases sanctions, or a regional maritime incident occurs.
Okay.
By spending years creating this intense, hyper-nationalist, algorithmically enforced reality, the state ensures that the public's heartbeat is perfectly synced with its geopolitical moves.
So everyone is already on the same page.
Exactly. They don't have to convince the public to support a war when the time comes. The public is already demanding it.
Because they've been fed cheeseburgers for a decade.
Yes. When the time comes to act, the public won't question the ethics, the economic cost, or the reality of the situation. They will simply react with the emotional fervor they've been systematically fed.
That makes total sense.
It shifts the perspective from seeing this as just propaganda to seeing it as strategic societal programming. It is active preparation.
It's literally installing a firewall in human brains so that absolutely no one questions the script when a real-world conflict arises.
Precisely.
They've already rehearsed the outrage, they've already identified the villains, and they are just waiting for the cue to step onto the stage. It really makes you realize how incredibly high the stakes are when we talk about algorithmic echo chambers.
It does. It shows that the information environment is just as critical as the physical battlefield.
Well, Sip&Talkers, we have covered some incredibly heavy ground today. I want to dial the energy back just a bit and ground us in our core lesson for this conversation.
I think that's a good idea.
Our goal today was absolutely not to mock anyone who is trapped in an algorithmic bubble. We have all been there. Remember the fried chicken.
We are all susceptible to it. The mechanics of the algorithm work on the human brain regardless of where you live.
Instead, this conversation is a reminder that in this modern era of AI, hyper-targeted videos and algorithmic feeds, doubt is a virtue. It really is.
Absolutely.
When you see a video pop up on your feed with sweeping dramatic music, waving flags, and a narrative that makes your blood boil and makes you want to rush to a battlefield, take 3 deep breaths.
Just pause.
Pause. And ask yourself, is this reality or is this a script designed to manipulate my emotions?
That is phenomenal advice for navigating the modern internet. The truth is usually gray. It's nuanced, it's often boring, and frankly, it is sometimes frustrating.
Very true.
It requires reading data and understanding complex histories. The narratives that are hyper-colorful, intensely emotional, and strictly black and white, those usually have a hidden price tag attached to them.
Which is?
They cost you your objectivity.
And before we wrap up, I want to explicitly state something important.
Yeah.
Here on Sip&Talk, we are not criticizing or discriminating against any country, any group, or any people.
No, not at all.
The entire conversation we had today was an objective exploration of facts, data, and systemic behaviors. We are looking at the mechanics of information. Our aim is always to promote this show's core values, which are critical, independent thinking. We want you to look at the world with open, analytical eyes.
Knowledge is most valuable when it's understood and applied. Looking at how information is controlled elsewhere helps us guard our own minds against manipulation, no matter where it comes from.
All right, that brings us to the end of today's conversation. If you enjoyed unpacking these concepts with us, please don't forget to cheerfully hit that subscribe button to the Sip&Talk podcast so you never miss a conversation with us. We love having you here.
And while you are online, I have to give a massive shout out to our good buddy, Mickey's YouTube channel, Mickey to Life.
Oh, yes.
You guys have got to check him out. His recent travel vlogs have some incredibly teasing, absolutely amazing highlight clips that you just have to see. Seriously, head over to Mickey to Life and give him a subscribe. You won't regret it.
Definitely check his channel out. The footage is stunning. So Sip&Talkers, As you go about the rest of your week, check if your phone has become a cognitive hamburger shop. Keep an eye on the algorithm in your own pocket and don't let it dictate your reality.
Stay calm, stay questioning. We'll see you next time.